Earl Mason stands at his kitchen window, watching the rain fall on his cornfields like it has for the past 50 years. But this morning is different. A teenage girl is running through his crops, expensive clothes covered in mud, fear in her eyes. Behind her, dark figures move through the corn. Earl's weathered hands reach for his old shotgun, remembering his days in the military. He knows in his gut that what he does next will change everything. This isn't just about saving a scared girl from trouble, though he doesn't know it yet. He's about to step into a world of wealth and dangerous secrets that will turn his quiet farm life upside down. What could make a billionaire's daughter run scared through a poor farmer's fields? And why is she desperate to keep her mother from finding her? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The screen door creaks as Earl steps onto his back porch, raindrops drumming against the tin roof overhead. His boots leave muddy prints on the worn wooden planks he'd replaced himself just last summer. The old shotgun feels familiar. In his hands, its weight a reminder of responsibilities he thought he'd left behind decades ago. 3 men emerge from the cornfield, their dark clothes and precise movements marking them as something other than local trouble. The girl stumbles, catching herself against one of Earl's fence posts. She can't be more than 15, her designer jacket torn, mascara running down her cheeks. This is private property, Earl calls out, his voice carrying across the wet field. The military tags around his neck feel suddenly heavy, a gift from his late wife Mary, who'd insisted he keep them as a reminder of the man he used to be. The lead pursuer stops, sizing up the situation. He's younger than Earl expected, wearing an expensive suit now ruined by mud and rain. "Sir, this is a private matter. The girl's mother sent us to bring her home." Earl doesn't lower the shotgun. Something in the man's eyes reminds him of other predators he's known, back in places where the rules of civilization wore thin. "Then her mother can come get her herself." The girl's voice trembles but carries clearly. "Please, they're lying. My mother would never send them." She takes a few steps toward the porch, keeping Earl between herself and her pursuers. "They broke into our house. They killed Jenkins, our security guard." The lead man's smile doesn't reach his eyes. The girl has a vivid imagination and a history of running away. "We're simply doing our job." Earl's finger rests beside the trigger, not on it. "Not yet. Got any identification? Badge? Private security license?" A subtle shift in the men's posture tells Earl everything he needs to know. He's seen it before. The moment when negotiation gives way to violence. His arthritis complains as he tightens his grip on the shotgun. "Last warning," Earl says quietly. "Leave my property now." The lead man reaches inside his jacket. Earl chambers around with a decisive pump of the shotgun. The sound echoes across the wet field like a thunderclap. "Don't," Earl says. Time stretches like cold molasses. Earl sees the calculations running behind the man's eyes. The old farmer, the mud, the rain, the witnesses, the shotgun that hasn't wavered an inch. Finally, the man's hand emerges empty. "This isn't over," he says. "Yes," Earl replies. "It is." The men back away, disappearing into the corn like shadows at noon. Earl keeps the shotgun ready until he's sure they're gone, then turns to the girl. She's shaking, whether from cold or fear or both. "Let's get you inside," he says. "I'm Earl Mason." "Alexandra," she manages between chattering teeth. "Alexandra Morrison." Earl nods, not recognizing the name that would soon be splashed across every news channel in the country. He guides her toward the house, his weathered hand gentle on her shoulder. The girl flinches at first, then leans into his steadying grip. As they reach the door, Martha's ancient pickup truck comes rattling down the gravel drive. His closest neighbor and friend for 30 years, Martha has an uncanny sense for when she's needed. Earl sees her expression shift from cheerful to concerned as she takes in the scene. The shotgun, the trampled corn, the trembling girl in expensive, muddy clothes. "Earl?" Martha calls out, already reaching for her phone. "Should I call the sheriff?" Earl looks down at Sarah, sees the flash of panic in her eyes. "Not yet," he decides. "Let's get the full story first." He gestures them both inside, where the kitchen's warmth and the smell of morning coffee create an illusion of normalcy. But as Earl sets the shotgun carefully by the door, he knows his quiet life has just become considerably more complicated. His fingers brush the old dog tags as he turns to face whatever comes next. Mary's voice echoes in his memory. "You can't save everyone, Earl, but sometimes saving one person is enough." Martha's practiced hands wrap a faded quilt around Alexandra's shoulders. The blanket, hand-stitched by Earl's grandmother during the Depression, has comforted 3 generations of Masons through long winter nights and summer storms. Now it enfolds this strange, frightened girl who keeps checking her phone, then shoving it back in her pocket as if it might bite. "It's not working anyway," Alexandra says, noticing Earl's glance. "They probably tracked it here before the battery died." Her fingers worry at a loose thread on the quilt. "I should go. I'm putting you in danger." "Drink your tea first," Martha says firmly, pushing a steaming mug into Alexandra's hands. Earl recognizes his friend's no-nonsense tone. The same one she used when his Mary was sick, brooking no argument about casseroles or company. Alexandra takes a sip, then another. Some of the tension leaves her shoulders. "This is really good. Chamomile and lavender," Martha explains. "My grandmother's remedy for troubled times." She catches Earl's eye. "Speaking of troubled times," Earl nods, settling into his worn kitchen chair. "Those men weren't police, or any private security I've ever seen. They work for someone powerful," Alexandra says quietly. "Someone who wants to keep me quiet about what I saw." Her hands tighten around the mug. I can't talk about it yet, but they killed Jenkins. He was trying to protect me, and they just..." Her voice breaks. Martha's arm goes around the girl's shoulders. "You're safe here, honey. Earl's place might not look like much, but it's solid as they come. And this whole community looks after its own." "I'm not one of your own," Alexandra protests. "You don't even know me." "You're here, aren't you?" Earl says simply. He stands, checking the locks again. Old habits. That's enough for now. A phone. Rings, not Alexandra's dead device, but Martha's. She checks the screen and frowns. "It's Sheriff Cooper. Want me to answer?" Earl considers. Tom Cooper's been sheriff for 20 years. A good man, mostly, but not someone Earl would trust with everything. "Tell him you saw some suspicious vehicles heading toward the highway. Not technically a lie." Martha nods and steps onto the porch. Through the window, Earl watches her gesture animated, playing the role of helpful neighbor perfectly. Alexandra has stopped shivering, but her eyes keep darting to the windows. Earl recognizes the hypervigilance. He'd seen it enough in young soldiers fresh from their first firefight. "Your mother," he says carefully, "she someone who can help?" Alexandra's laugh is bitter beyond her years. "My mother's the last person I can trust right now. She's not who everyone thinks she is." She pulls the quilt tighter. "Nobody is, I guess." Earl thinks of his dog tags, of missions that never made it into any official record. "People can surprise you," he agrees. "Both ways." Martha returns, shaking rain from her jacket. "Sheriff's got patrols, looking for our mysterious visitors. I may have implied they seemed interested in the Miller place. That's 10 miles in the wrong direction." "Thank you," Alexandra whispers. "Both of you. I know this is crazy, just taking in a stranger like this." "Less crazy than you might think," Martha says, her eyes finding the faded photograph on Earl's wall, him and Mary on their wedding day, young and full of dreams. "Earl's got a habit of helping strays. How do you think I ended up here?" "That," gets a genuine smile from Alexandra. "You don't seem like a stray. 30 years ago, fresh divorce, broken down truck, and more attitude than sense. Earl let me rent his old cabin, taught me about farming, been neighbors ever since." Martha starts gathering dishes. "Sometimes the family you choose is better than the one you're born with." Earl watches Alexandra absorb this, sees something, like hope flicker in her eyes, but there's still fear there too, and secrets. Whatever she's running from, it's bigger than angry men in expensive suits. A distant rumble of thunder makes Alexandra jump. Earl moves to the window, but it's just the storm rolling in. The rain's picking up again, drumming against the roof, like artillery fire in his memory. Storm's getting worse, Martha observes. I should head home before the roads flood. Unless you want me to stay. Earl shakes his head. Better if you're there if anyone comes asking questions. But I'll keep my phone on, she promises. And Earl, whatever this is, we'll figure it out. After Martha leaves, Earl shows Alexandra to Mary's old sewing room. The single bed is still made up with fresh sheets. Martha's doing, no doubt. She's been trying to convince him to turn the space into a proper guest room for years. Try to get some rest, he tells Alexandra. Door. Locks from the inside. Bathrooms down the hall. She pauses in the doorway. Mr. Mason, why are you helping me? Earl thinks about Mary, about choices and consequences and things that can't be undone. Because someone once helped me, he says finally, when I needed it most. Alexandra nods, like she understands. Maybe she does. Earl returns to his chair by the window, shotgun across his lap, keeping watch as the storm rages outside. Morning light filters through the kitchen windows as Martha spreads the newspaper across Earl's table. Her finger taps a photograph that takes up half the business section. A striking woman in her 40s, dark hair swept back, standing before a wall of screens and circuits. Victoria Morrison, Martha reads, tech mogul, philanthropist, and one of America's most secretive billionaires. She looks up at Earl. Alexandra's mother. Earl studies the image. There's something familiar. In the set of the jaw, the sharp intelligence in the eyes. He's seen those same features, softened by youth, in the girl currently asleep upstairs. Found this article from last month, Martha continues, smoothing the wrinkled newsprint. Morrison Technologies just landed a major defense contract. Something about quantum encryption. Most of the details are classified. Military connections, Earl murmurs, pieces starting to click into place. That explains the professional muscle. There's more. Martha pulls out her tablet, something Earl still teases her about. Victoria Morrison wasn't always Victoria. Morrison. Before 2005, she was Victoria Hayes. Then the records just stop. The sound of footsteps on the stairs interrupts them. Alexandra appears, still wearing yesterday's muddy clothes, though someone's tried to clean them. Her eyes fix on the newspaper, on her mother's photo. You found me out, she says quietly. Sit, Earl tells her, pulling out a chair. Coffee? Alexandra nods, sinking into the seat. Her fingers trace her mother's photograph, a gesture both loving and afraid. I suppose you want to know everything. Now, only what you're ready to tell us, Martha says, but Earl notices she doesn't put the tablet away. Alexandra wraps her hands around the coffee mug Earl sets before her. Mum's company, it's not what people think. The encryption technology, it's not just for defense. They're building a back door, a way to access any system anywhere. Government, military, private sector. She takes a shaky breath. I found the proof. And I found out what happened to the last person who discovered it. Jenkins, Earl asks. Alexandra nods. He helped me get the files. He was going to help me take them to a journalist. But they found out somehow. They came at night. Her voice cracks. I ran. I just ran. I didn't even know where I was going until I saw your farm. Martha reaches for the girl's hand, but Alexandra pulls back. You don't understand. These people, they'll hurt anyone who helps me. They'll burn this place to the ground to keep this quiet. Let them try, Earl says quietly. The steel in his voice makes both women look at him. This isn't my first war, Alexandra, and I don't abandon allies. A car door slams outside. Earl's hand moves to his shotgun, but Martha's already at the window. Sheriff Cooper, she reports. And he's not alone. Through the glass, they watch Tom Cooper climb out of his cruiser. Behind him, an unmarked black SUV pulls up, and two men in suits step out. Not the same ones from yesterday, but cut from the same cloth. Back door, Earl says calmly. Martha, take her to your place. Use the old tractor path through the woods. Earl, Martha starts to protest. Go. His tone leaves no room for argument. I'll handle this. Alexandra grabs his arm. Mr. Mason, they'll do nothing, Earl cuts her off, because officially I haven't seen you. I'm just a confused old farmer who heard some commotion last night but assumed it was deer in his corn. He looks at Martha. Like you told. The sheriff yesterday, remember? Martha's expression shifts from worry to understanding. Right, just deer. Come on, Alexandra. Earl waits until he hears the back door close softly, then picks up the newspaper and tablet, sliding them into a drawer. The knock comes just as he's settling back into his chair. Come in, Tom, he calls out, voice casual. Coffee's hot. The door opens, and Sheriff Cooper enters, followed by the suits. Earl doesn't miss how their eyes scan the room, cataloguing exits and angles. Military training or something close to it. Earl, Cooper nods. These gentlemen are with Morrison Technology Security. They're looking for a missing person. Thought you might be able to help. Earl meets the sheriff's eyes, sees the question there. Tom Cooper's known him 30 years, knows he doesn't lie without reason. Earl keeps his expression neutral as he reaches for the coffee pot. Missing person? He asks. In Oak Ridge. Aren't we a little off the beaten path for that sort of thing? The older suit steps forward, smile professional and empty. Mr. Mason, we have reason to believe you may have had contact with Alexandra Morrison. Anything you could tell us would be greatly appreciated. Earl pours coffee with a steady hand, buying time, measuring his next words carefully. Behind him, through the window, he catches a glimpse of movement in the tree line. Martha's blue jacket vanishing into the shadows of the woods. Alexandra sits at Martha's kitchen table, turning her dead phone over and over in her hands. The cracked screen reflects the afternoon light, spiderweb fractures distorting her reflection. Earl watches her from the doorway, remembering another young person who once sat at this table lost and scared. It has evidence on it, she says finally. Videos, documents, encryption keys. But they probably wiped it remotely before the battery died. Her laugh is hollow. Mom always said technology was about control. Guess she would know. Martha sets a plate of eggs and toast in front of her. Eat something, honey. Can't think straight on an empty stomach. Earl pulls up a chair, his joints protesting the morning's quick escape through the woods. Tell me about your mother. The real story. Alexandra pushes the eggs around her plate. She wasn't always like this. After Dad died, car accident. When I was 10, something changed. She built Morrison Technologies from nothing, working 18-hour days. I barely saw her. She takes a small bite of toast. The company became everything. Every conversation was about security, about protecting what we'd built. She hired Jenkins when I was 12. Your security guard, Martha prompts gently. More than that. He was kind, present. He taught me chess, helped with my homework, covered for me when I snuck out to normal teenage things. Her voice catches. He was more of a parent than she was these last few years. Earl exchanges a look with Martha. They both recognize the pain of lost family, even if the circumstances differ. Yesterday morning, I was in Mom's home office. I wasn't supposed to be. She has all these rules about her private spaces, but I'd left my calculus book there. Alexandra's hands shake slightly. Her computer was open. She never leaves it open. And there was this email chain about Project Oracle and something called a master key. She pushes the plate away. Jenkins found me there, but instead of reporting me, he told me things about what the company was really doing, about other whistleblowers who disappeared. He said he'd been gathering evidence for months, waiting for the right moment. Tears slipped down her cheeks. We were supposed to meet a reporter last night, but they were waiting for us. Jenkins told me to run. He bought me time. Martha reaches for the girl's hand, and this time Alexandra lets her take it. The men who came here, Earl says carefully, they work for your mother. I don't know anymore. Alexandra pulls out a small data card from her sock. Jenkins gave me this before. Said it was everything we needed, but I can't access it without the right equipment. Earl studies the tiny piece of plastic that's caused so much trouble. I know someone, ex-military intelligence, runs a repair shop in town, but it's risky. Word gets around fast in Oak Ridge. Hank? Martha asks. At Earl's nod, she continues, he still owes me for fixing his mama's heart condition last winter. I can call in that favor. No, Alexandra protests. You've all risked too much already. Child, Martha says firmly, the world's full of people who look the other way when something's wrong. Don't you dare ask us to be among them. A sudden bark outside makes them all jump. Through the window, Earl sees Martha's old retriever, Max, racing toward the tree line, hackles raised. Company, he says quietly, reaching for his shotgun. Martha moves to the window, then relaxes slightly. It's just Hank's truck, and he's alone. The man who steps out of the battered pickup is built like a retired linebacker. His dark skin, weathered from years of outdoor work. He holds up his hands as Max approaches, then scratches the dog's ears with practiced ease. Brought that alternator you asked for, Martha, he calls out, his voice carrying, just loud enough to cover any sounds from inside the house. Mind if I come in and install it? Earl feels some of the tension leave his shoulders. It's an old code between them. Alternator means trouble, installing means help needed. He glances at Alexandra, sees her watching the interplay with a mix of fear and fascination. Your choice, he tells her. Hank's good people, but it's your secret to keep or share. Alexandra looks down at the broken phone, the data card, the remnants of her old life scattered across Martha's worn tablecloth. Then she straightens, something of her mother's steel showing through. We need to know what's on this card, she says. We need to know what I'm really running from. Earl nods, respecting her courage. Martha, tell Hank we could use his expertise with that alternator. As Martha goes to let Hank in, Alexandra's hand finds Earl's arm. Thank you, she whispers, for believing me, for helping me find the truth. Truth's usually worth finding, Earl replies, even when it hurts, maybe especially. Then Hank's fingers move across his laptop keyboard with surprising delicacy for such large hands. The data card from Alexandra's sock sits in a reader, its tiny LED blinking as programs run their course. On Martha's kitchen table, a familiar leather-bound journal lies open, Victoria Morrison's old diary, found in the bottom of Alexandra's backpack. Mum used to write everything down, Alexandra explains, turning pages carefully. She said computers could be hacked, but thoughts had to be stolen, the old-fashioned way. I grabbed it when I ran, thought it might help explain things. Earl studies the neat handwriting, dates going back 15 years. The early entries read like a different person, a mother grieving her husband, determined to build something, lasting for her daughter. But as the pages progress, the tone shifts, paranoia creeps in, references to necessary sacrifices and the greater good appear with increasing frequency. Got something, Hank murmurs, his screen reflecting in his glasses. Encryption's military grade, but there's a pattern. Hold up! His expression darkens. Earl, you need to see this. Earl moves to look over Hank's shoulder. Project Oracle's specifications scroll past. A backdoor into every major security system in the country, possibly the world. But it's the list of neutralized threats that catches his eye. 12 names, dates, locations. The last entry is from 2 days ago. Jenkins, Robert A. Status, terminated. They're not even trying to hide it, Hank says quietly, like they're above consequences. Alexandra's voice trembles. Jenkins knew. That's why he was helping me. He saw his own name on their list, didn't he? Martha, who's been keeping watch at the window, moves to comfort the girl. But Alexandra is already flipping frantically through the journal, searching. Here, she says, 3 months ago, Mum wrote about Robert's concerning behavior and necessary contingency plans. Her fingers clench on the page. She knew. She planned it all along. Earl's military training kicks in, assessing threats and options. Hank, can you copy those files somewhere safe? Already on it, splitting them across secure servers. Dead man switch. Anything happens to me, it all goes public. He glances at Alexandra. No offense, kid, but your mom's tech isn't the only game in town. A sound outside freezes them all. Max's low growl, followed by the crunch of gravel. Under tires. Martha moves swiftly to the window, then swears softly, something Earl's never heard her do. Black SUVs, she reports. 3 of them, coming up the drive. Hank's fingers fly across the keyboard. 2 more minutes to finish. The upload. Earl's mind races through scenarios, discarding each as too risky. They're trapped. Martha's house sits at the end of a dead-end road, surrounded by fields. No easy escape route. Alexandra clutches the journal to her chest. This is my fault. I never should have... Stop! Earl cuts her off. Fault doesn't matter now. Action does. He turns to Martha. The cellar, the old tunnel. Martha's eyes widen. Earl, that hasn't been used since Prohibition, I know. But it still connects to the Miller place, right? If it hasn't collapsed, better than certain capture. Earl checks his shotgun, though he knows it won't help much against professional operators. Hank, 90 seconds. Sweat beads on his forehead. Maybe less. Martha, get them through the tunnel. I'll buy you time. Like hell, Martha snaps. You're not playing hero, Earl Mason. I didn't patch you up after Mary died just to lose you now. Vehicles stop outside. Car doors open and close with quiet precision. 45 seconds, Hank reports. Earl makes his decision. Alexandra, whatever happens, you publish those files. Make it mean something. He hands her his dog tags. Something to remember that some fights are worth fighting. Done, Hank announces, pulling the data card. Time to disappear. Martha's already opening the cellar door, hidden under an old rug. The tunnel entrance lies behind a false wine rack, remnants of an age when farmers had to hide more than just runaway teenagers. As they descend, Earl takes one last look at the journal on the table. The final entry catches his eye. Power isn't about control. It's about fear. Make them fear you enough, they'll control themselves. He memorizes the words, understanding finally what they're really fighting against. Not just corruption or greed, but the slow poison of fear itself. Heavy boots on the porch, a sharp knock. Mr. Mason? A familiar voice. The suit from yesterday. We know you're in there. Let's handle this professionally. Earl picks up the journal and heads down into the cellar. Sometimes the best way to fight fear is to simply refuse its power over you. The old weather radio crackles on Martha's basement shelf as they move through the darkness. Its automated voice warns of an approaching storm system. Severe thunderstorms, possible tornado activity. Earl thinks of his crops above, of the men searching his property, of how nature sometimes has a way of evening odds. Watch your step, Martha whispers, leading them through the narrow passage. The tunnel is barely tall enough to stand in, its walls a mix of ancient brick and packed earth. Their flashlight beams catch old bottles in niches, leftover evidence of the tunnel's original purpose. Alexandra stumbles and Earl steadies her. The dog tags he gave her clink softly against the journal she refuses to let go of. Behind them, Hank brings up the rear, his laptop bag clutched close. A boom of thunder rattles dust from the ceiling, or maybe it's footsteps above. Earl strains to listen, but the growing storm makes it impossible to tell. How much further? Alexandra whispers. 1/4 mile, Martha answers. The Miller place is abandoned, but the road there connects to the county highway. She pauses, listening. Earl, you hear that? Water. A steady trickle becoming a stream. The storm drain must have backed up, finding the old tunnel's path. Move, Earl orders, urgent but quiet. Water's rising. They quicken their pace, splashing through puddles that deepen with each step. The tunnel's brick walls glisten, decades of mineral deposits catching their flashlight beams. Earl remembers stories of Prohibition-era runners drowning in these passages during flash floods. A crash echoes from behind them. the cellar door being broken down. Voices carry through. The tunnel, distorted by water and stone. They'll figure it out, Hank says grimly. These passages aren't exactly a state secret. Earl does the math in his head. Maybe 10 minutes before their pursuers catch up. Less if they're familiar with the tunnel system. The water's already ankle deep. Martha stops at a junction. Flashlight. Beam sweeping the branching passages. Left goes to the Miller place. Right leads to the old church basement. Split up, Hank suggests. Earl shakes his head. They'll have teams at both exits by now. We need a third option. Alexandra shivers in her wet clothes, but her voice is steady. Mom always says if you can't win the game, change the rules. The weather radio's signal cuts through the tunnel's gloom. Tornado warning issued for eastern Oak Ridge County. Seek shelter immediately. Repeat, tornado warning. Earl looks at Martha, sees the same idea forming. The storm cellar. Halfway between here and the church, she nods. Original entrance is gone, but the tunnel access should still be there, Earl finishes. Solid concrete, built to withstand anything. Another crash echoes behind them, closer now. Flashlight. Beams dance on the wet walls. The water reaches their calves. This way, Martha says, taking the right passage. They move as quickly as they dare, fighting the current that threatens to sweep their feet from under them. Alexandra clutches Earl's arm. What if they find us? Then we make our stand where we choose. Not where they force us, he squeezes. Her hand. Sometimes that's all the advantage you need. The water rises steadily as they splash through the darkness. Earl feels the tunnel's slope changing, leading them deeper underground. His flashlight catches a rusty ladder bolted to the wall. Here, Martha announces, storm cellar access. The circular metal hatch above looks solid despite its age. Earl tests the ladder, sturdy enough. About 15 feet up to the hatch, then another 10 feet of concrete shaft to the surface. Thunder shakes the tunnel, so loud it has to be directly. Overhead, the storm drain gushes now, turning the passage behind them into a churning rapids. They'll have to pull back, Hank says, watching the water rise. No choice. Earl helps Alexandra onto the ladder. Martha, you next. Hank, go. Earl. Martha starts to protest. Someone needs to lock it from the inside, he says firmly. I'll be right behind you. They climb quickly, water swirling below. Earl sees flashlights in the distance, hears voices cursing as their pursuit is stalled by the flood. He waits until the others are safely up, then starts climbing. The storm cellar's metal hatch groans as Martha heaves it open. Wind and rain whip down the shaft, along with the unmistakable sound of a tornado's approach. Earl pulls himself through. Just as the tunnel below becomes a roaring river, he helps Martha seal the hatch, its heavy locking mechanism sliding into place. They huddle in the concrete shelter, listening to nature's fury above and human fury below. Alexandra's hand finds his in the darkness. What now? She whispers. Now, Earl says, we wait for the storm to do our work for us. The storm cellar's emergency lights cast a pale glow over their refuge. Alexandra pulls a worn photograph from her mother's journal. A younger Victoria Morrison stands between her own parents, all three smiling on a sunny beach. The picture is creased down the middle, as if someone had once considered tearing it in half, but couldn't follow through. I've never seen my grandparents, Alexandra says quietly. Mom said they died before I was born. But there's no record of them anywhere, like they never existed. Hank looks up from his laptop, which he's managed to connect to a weak cellular signal. Because they didn't, officially. At least not under the name Morrison. He turns the screen toward them. Found a marriage certificate from 1982. Victoria Hayes married Michael Morrison. Your father's name was Michael too, wasn't it? Alexandra nods slowly. She said she named me Alexandra because Dad liked it. But everything else about him, there are so many versions of the story. Sometimes it was a car accident, sometimes a plane crash. The date changes, the location changes. The wind howls outside, But a different sound makes Earl raise his hand for silence. Footsteps above, moving with purpose. "Alexandra?" A woman's voice carries through the concrete. "Sweetheart, I know you're down there." The girl goes rigid. Earl watches emotions war on her face. Love, fear, anger, uncertainty. "Mom, it's over, baby. Come out and we can talk about this, about everything." Victoria's voice is smooth, professional, practiced. "What Jenkins told you, he didn't understand the bigger picture. What we're building is going to change the world. Like you changed his world." Alexandra's voice cracks. "I saw the list, Mom. All those people." A pause. When Victoria speaks again, her tone has hardened. "You have no idea what it takes to build something lasting. To protect it. Your father understood that in the end." Alexandra's hands clench around the photograph. "What really happened to Dad?" The silence stretches. Thunder rolls overhead. "He was weak," Victoria finally says. "He wanted to expose everything, do the right thing. He would have destroyed all I'd built for you. Is that what you want? To tear it all down?" Martha moves to comfort Alexandra, but the girl stands, straight and tall like her mother in the photograph. "What I want is the truth, the real truth, not another story." "Truth?" Victoria laughs, the sound bitter even through layers of concrete. "Truth is whatever history's winners say it is. I learned that from your grandparents, before they had their unfortunate accident." Alexandra's breath catches. Earl sees the final pieces click into place behind her eyes. "You killed them too," she whispers. "Your own parents. I protected our legacy, like I protected us from your father's conscience, like I'll protect us now." Victoria's voice turns gentle again. "Come out, Alexandra. We can start fresh. A clean slate." "Clean like Jenkins's slate." Alexandra's voice rises. "He was more family to me than you ever were." "Family?" Now Victoria's tone is truly dangerous. "Family is blood, power, legacy. Everything I've done has been for you, to make sure you'd never be powerless, never be afraid." "I'm not afraid," Alexandra says clearly. "Not anymore." A new sound cuts through the storm. Helicopter rotors. "Approaching." "That'll be the federal marshals," Hank says, checking his phone. "Anonymous tip about corporate terrorism and multiple homicides. Amazing how much evidence can spread online during a storm." Victoria must hear it too. Her voice turns urgent. "Alexandra, please, we can fix this. Together." "No, Mom." Alexandra clutches Earl's dog tags. "Some things can't be fixed. They can only be faced." Shouts above. Law enforcement orders barked. "Into the wind." Running footsteps. "Last chance," Victoria calls down. "Family or strangers? Power or weakness?" Alexandra looks at the photograph one last time, then deliberately tears it down its worn crease. The half with her grandparents she tucks back into the journal. The half with her mother she lets fall to the concrete floor. "I choose truth," she says quietly, but her voice carries. "I choose justice. For Jenkins, for Dad, for my grandparents." No response comes. Only the fading sound of expensive shoes on gravel and the growing noise of justice arriving by air. "Your mother's not going to surrender easily," Earl warns. Alexandra nods, touching the dog tags like a talisman. "I know, but maybe that's not what this was about. Maybe it was about choosing who I want to be." Martha wraps the girl in a fierce hug. Hank keeps typing, ensuring the evidence reaches every necessary inbox. Earl thinks about choices and consequences, about the legacy of violence, and about how sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply tell the truth. Above them, the storm begins to pass. Earl's old shotgun feels heavier than usual as they emerge from the storm cellar into the aftermath of nature's fury. The sky has cleared to a surreal purple-green, the air charged with ozone and possibility. Fallen trees and scattered debris mark the tornado's path across his fields. Federal marshals secure the perimeter, their weapons trained on Victoria Morrison's security team, now disarmed and kneeling in the mud. But Victoria herself is nowhere to be seen. "She's gone to ground," says the lead marshal, a sharp-eyed woman named Chen. But we've got teams at every airport, train station, and highway out of the county. She eyes Earl's shotgun. Sir, I need you to lower that weapon. Earl carefully engages the safety and hands it over. Just protecting what's mine. Multiple homicides, Chen continues, consulting her tablet. Corporate espionage, domestic terrorism charges. The evidence your friend uploaded is extensive. She looks at Alexandra. We'll need your testimony. Alexandra straightens, still holding her mother's journal. I'll tell you everything, but first, Jenkins, Robert Jenkins. His body. Recovery teams already at the Morrison estate, Chen assures her. He'll get justice. A shout from the tree line draws their attention. One of Victoria's men has broken free, running toward a hidden vehicle. Earl tenses, but federal agents are already moving to intercept. Then another shout, urgent. Gun! The world narrows to split-second decisions. Earl sees the glint of metal, sees the runner's arm raising. Alexandra stands exposed, an easy target. His body moves on instinct, decades of training taking over. The impact drives the breath from his lungs as they hit the ground. The shot cracks over their heads. Return fire from the marshals takes down the runner, but Earl's focus is on Alexandra. You okay? She nods, shaken but unhurt. The journal fell open in their dive, papers scattering. As they gather them, Alexandra freezes, staring at a page. Earl, look at this. It's a series of numbers and letters, hastily scrawled in Victoria's precise hand. Coordinates, security codes, and a single word. Contingency. Hank appears beside them, studying the page. That's an access code format I recognize. Military installation about 30 miles north. Supposedly decommissioned, but she's not running, Alexandra realizes. This was her fallback plan all along. A secured facility, probably rigged with Project Oracle's systems. Marshal Chen joins their huddle. We've got activity at that. Location, power surge, communications going dark, but it's not under our jurisdiction. We can't move without authorization. How long for authorization? Martha asks. Hours, maybe days. Alexandra clutches Earl's dog tags. She'll destroy everything, all the evidence, all the truth about what she did, about Dad, about Jenkins, about all of it. Earl looks at his ruined fields, at Martha's determined face, at Hank's knowing expression, then at Alexandra, who's lost everything but her courage. Some things, he says quietly, can't wait for authorization. Chen's expression remains professional, but something shifts in her eyes. Mr. Mason, I need to secure this scene and process these suspects. My team will be fully occupied here for at least 2 hours. I'm afraid I don't have any personnel to spare for other locations. Earl nods, understanding. Martha? My truck still runs, she says, and I've got my mother's old hunting rifle in the cab. Hank? He pats his laptop bag. Someone needs to handle the technical side, and I've got a few tricks they haven't seen yet. No, Alexandra's voice is firm. I can't let you risk... Child, Martha cuts her off. There's a difference between letting people help and letting them choose. We're choosing. Earl retrieves his shotgun from where Chen set it aside. The marshal doesn't object. You have 2 hours, she says simply. After that, I'll have no choice but to send in the official response team. Alexandra looks at the journal in her hands, then at the scattered papers that hold the last traces of her mother's crimes. Mom always said power was about control, she says softly, but maybe it's really about choice, about choosing to do what's right, even when it's hard. Earl checks his shotgun, remembering other missions, other choices. Your father chose truth. Jenkins chose justice. Now it's our turn. Martha's truck rumbles to life, headlights cutting through the gathering dusk. They pile in, Earl riding shotgun, Alexandra and Hank in the back with his equipment. As they pull away, Earl glances in the side mirror. Marshal Chen watches them. Go, her face unreadable. Behind her, the tornado's path stretches across the landscape like a scar, a reminder that sometimes destruction clears the way for something new to grow. Alexandra clutches the journal, its pages holding the key to her mother's last stronghold. In the dying light, Earl sees not just Victoria's daughter, but something new emerging. A young woman choosing her own path, her own truth, her own legacy. Martha shifts gears, the truck gathering speed. Ahead, storm clouds still darken the northern horizon, as if nature itself isn't quite done helping their cause. Martha's truck bounces along the back roads as Hank works in the rear seat, his laptop illuminating the USB drive they'd recovered. Text scrolls across his screen, fragments of Project Oracle's true scope emerging like shadows at sunset. Your mother didn't just build a back door, he says grimly. She built a skeleton key for the entire digital world. Banking systems, power grids, military networks. He looks up at Alexandra. With this, she could hold the whole country hostage. Not the country, Alexandra corrects, studying her mother's journal. The world. That's what she always wanted. Enough power that no one could ever hurt us again. She traces the coordinates written in Victoria's hand. After Dad died, she said we had to be stronger than everyone else. Had to be the ones holding the knife, or we'd be the ones feeling it. Earl watches the northern horizon through the passenger window. The abandoned military installation looms ahead, a concrete fortress crowned with satellite dishes and transmission towers, supposedly dormant, but humming with hidden power. 2 guards at the main gate, Martha reports, killing the headlights, more probably inside. Mom's personal security team, Alexandra confirms, the ones who know what she really is, what she really does. They park behind a stand of trees, concealed from the facility's cameras. Earl checks his shotgun while Martha retrieves her rifle from behind the seat. Hank, Earl says, can you get us in? Already working on it. His fingers dance across the keyboard. Their security system is top of the line, but every code has a pattern just need to there. A distant alarm chirps, then dies. One of the guard shacks goes dark. Power malfunction in Sector 3, Hank explains. They'll have to check it manually, standard procedure. Sure enough, one of the guards leaves his post, heading toward the darkened section. Earl nods at Martha, who shoulders her rifle. Watch the other one, he says. Alexandra, stay with Hank until we clear the entrance. No. Alexandra's voice is quiet but firm. She's my mother, my responsibility. Earl studies her face in the dim light, seeing not the frightened girl who ran through his cornfield, but someone stronger, someone chosen instead of shaped. Stay behind me, he concedes. Martha, on it. They move through the shadows like ghosts, Earl leading with decades of training, Alexandra close behind. The remaining guard never sees Martha's approach. A quick strike, and he's unconscious, secured with his own zip ties. Cameras are looped, Hank reports through their phones. But hurry, can't hide our heat signatures forever. The facility's corridors are a maze of concrete and steel. But Alexandra navigates them with grim familiarity. Mom brought me here once, called it her insurance policy. Through here, they round a corner and find 2 more guards. Earl moves fast, muscle memory taking over. No shots fired, no alerts raised, just the quiet efficiency that once made him valuable to his country. Server room ahead, Alexandra whispers. That's where she'll be, where everything is controlled from. As if confirming her words, a voice carries through the reinforced door. I wondered when you'd arrive. Victoria Morrison stands at a bank of computers, her elegant suit incongruous against the military surroundings. Lines of code reflect in her glasses as her fingers move across multiple keyboards. Hello, Alexandra. Her voice is calm, almost gentle. And Mr. Mason, the simple farmer who's not so simple after all. Earl keeps his shotgun ready but not raised. It's over, Mrs. Morrison. Victoria Hayes, Alexandra corrects. That's your real name, isn't it? The one you had before you killed my father. Victoria's fingers pause. Michael was weak. He would have exposed everything, destroyed everything, just like your grandparents would have. Her smile is sad but determined. Sometimes love means making hard choices. Choices. Alexandra holds up the journal. Like choosing to kill Jenkins? To kill anyone who threatened your power? To protect you, Victoria insists. To make you strong. You made me afraid, Alexandra says quietly. Of you, of everything. That's not strength. Victoria turns back to her computers. You'll understand someday, when you see how the world really works. For now, her fingers fly across the keys. Project Oracle goes live in 3 minutes. Then everyone will understand the price of crossing. Us. Us? Alexandra's voice cracks. There is no us, Mom. Not anymore. She steps forward out of Earl's protective shadow. Victoria's hands freeze over the keyboard. Alexandra. I choose something different, Alexandra says firmly. I choose the truth. And before anyone can move, she drives a fist through the nearest server bank. Sparks shower from the damaged server as alarms blare throughout the facility. Victoria stares at her daughter in shock, a burner phone falling from her slack fingers. On its screen, a text message glows. Teams in position, awaiting final authorization. Do you have any idea what you've just done? Victoria's voice trembles with rage. Years of work, billions in development. I know exactly what I've done. Alexandra stands her ground. I chose to be better than fear. Footsteps thunder in. The corridor, security responding to the alarms. Earl moves to cover the door, while Martha slides into position at the room's other entrance. Hank, Earl says into his phone, we could use some help here. Working on it, Hank's voice crackles back. Their backup systems are fighting me. But got it. Blast doors engaging. Metal barriers slam down over both entrances, sealing them in. Outside, fists pound against steel. You really think this changes anything? Victoria recovers her composure, reaching for the burner phone. I have teams across 3 continents. Project Oracle isn't just here, it's everywhere. One command and... Alexandra's foot comes down on the phone, crushing it. No more commands. No more control. You sound just like your father. Victoria's laugh is bitter. He thought he could stop me too. Thought his precious ethics meant more than power. She pulls a slim laptop from her bag. But I learned from that mistake. There's always a backup plan. Earl's shotgun doesn't waver. Put it down, Mrs. Hayes. That's not my name anymore. Victoria snaps. I buried that weak woman along with her parents, along with Michael. Alexandra, honey, please, just let me show you. Let me prove that everything I did was for us. She opens the laptop, fingers flying across its keys. More servers hum to life, their fans spinning up like angry hornets. Mum, stop! Alexandra's voice cracks. Jenkins trusted you. Dad trusted you. Your parents trusted you. When does it end? It ends when we're safe, Victoria insists, when we're too powerful to touch. Project Oracle isn't just about control, it's about prevention, about making sure no one can ever hurt us again. By hurting them first. Alexandra pulls Earl's dog tags from her neck. That's not protection. That's just passing the pain. Forward. Martha's rifle tracks Victoria's movements. Earl, hold, he says quietly. Some battles need to be fought with words instead of weapons. Alexandra, everything I built was for you. Victoria's eyes never leave her screen. Every sacrifice, every hard choice, it was all to give you a legacy of strength. No, Alexandra's voice is firm. It was to give yourself an excuse, to justify becoming the thing that scared you. Victoria's fingers pause. For a moment, something flickers across her face. Doubt, regret, or maybe just a shadow of the mother she used to be. Then her expression hardens. If you won't accept your legacy willingly, then a new alarm sounds. Red lights flash as hidden panels open in the walls, revealing automated defense systems. Really should have mentioned those, Victoria says almost apologetically. Cutting-edge targeting AI. Non-lethal, of course. I'd never risk hurting you, Alexandra. But your friends here... Earl assesses the weapons emerging from the walls. Rubber bullets, tasers, gas dispensers. Meant to incapacitate, but still, deadly in the right circumstances. One last chance, Victoria offers. Stand with me. Be strong with me. Or watch what happens when the lights die. Every screen goes dark. In the sudden silence, they hear Hank's voice through their phones. Sorry about the delay. Had to trace her quantum encryption back to its source. But it turns out even the most advanced AI can't run without power. Emergency lighting casts the room in a red glow. Victoria stares at her dead laptop in disbelief. Impossible. The backup generators are also offline. Hank finishes. Amazing what you can do with the right access codes, especially when they're written in your own journal. Alexandra picks up the leather-bound book from where it fell. You taught me to always have a backup plan, Mum, to look for leverage, to use people's secrets against them. She opens to a marked page. But you never taught me to be brave. Earl did that, Martha did that, Jenkins did that. Victoria lunges for a manual override panel, but Martha's rifle stops her cold. Don't, Martha says quietly. The blast doors begin to rise. But instead of security teams, Marshal Chen leads a tactical unit into the room. Victoria Hayes, Chen announces formally, you're under arrest for murder, corporate terrorism, and about 24 other charges my team is still cataloguing. As federal agents secure Victoria, Alexandra steps forward one last time. Mum, their eyes meet. I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine, because that's what real strength looks like. Victoria says nothing as they lead her away, but her shoulders bend as if finally feeling the weight of all she's done. Earl puts a gentle hand on Alexandra's shoulder. You okay? She touches the dog tags, then offers them back to him. Keep them, to remember that sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting, it's choosing to stop. The newly installed security cameras at Earl's farm catch everything. Federal agents processing evidence, tech teams dismantling Project Oracle's infrastructure, and Victoria Hayes being led away in handcuffs. Martha had insisted on the cameras. After they returned, just in case anyone else gets ideas about using your fields as an escape route. Alexandra watches the footage from Earl's kitchen table, her mother's journal open beside her. Marshal Chen sits across from her, recording. Device ready. Start from the beginning, Chen says gently. Everything you remember about Project Oracle. Alexandra's hand finds Earl's old dog tags. It wasn't just about surveillance or control. Mom, Victoria, she was building something bigger, a way to rewrite reality itself. Digital reality, Hank corrects from his laptop. Every record, every transaction, every piece of data, all controllable through a single system. And the murders, Chen prompts, started with my grandparents. Alexandra turns pages in the journal. They discovered what she was planning, threatened to expose her. Then my father, he found evidence, tried to stop her. Jenkins was just the latest, but there were others. Earl stands at his usual post by the window, watching his cornfields sway in the autumn wind. The tornado's path is still visible, a scar across the landscape that will take seasons to heal. We've identified 12 victims so far, Chen reports, but there might be more. Your testimony could help find them all. I'll tell you everything I know, Alexandra promises. But first, Jenkins deserves a proper burial, a chance for people to know who he really was. Martha sets fresh coffee on the table. We can help with that. Community's good at coming together when it matters. The security footage shows another vehicle approaching, a silver sedan with government plates. Chen checks her phone and nods. That'll be the witness protection team. We need to move you to a secure location until the trial. Alexandra stiffens. Earl recognizes the look, the same fear he'd seen when she first ran through his fields, but this time, it's fear of leaving, rather than fear of staying. Marshal, he says carefully, this farm's been in my family for 4 generations. Good sight lines, defensible positions, tight-knit community, and now we've got enough cameras to make the Pentagon jealous. Chen raises an eyebrow. Are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that sometimes the best hiding place is the last one. And they'd expect, he looks at Alexandra. If you want to stay, that is. You do that? Alexandra's voice is small, hopeful. Even after everything I brought down on you. Martha snorts. Child, you brought justice down on people who deserved it. Far as I'm concerned, that makes you family. It's not without risk, Chen warns. Victoria Hayes still has supporters, resources we haven't found yet. Let them come. Hank says, patting his laptop. Between my systems and these new cameras, nobody's sneaking up on this place again. Alexandra looks around the kitchen, at Earl's weathered face, Martha's determined smile, Hank's quiet confidence. At the home that welcomed her when she had nowhere else to run. I want to stay, she says firmly. I need to see this through. All of it, Chen considers, then nods. I'll have to leave a protection detail, and you'll need to be available for questioning, depositions, eventual testimony. We can work with that, Earl agrees. The witness protection team enters, 2 serious agents in serious suits. They eye the farmhouse's worn furniture and simple furnishings with poorly concealed doubt. Ma'am, one begins, we have a secure facility. She's staying, Earl cuts him off. His tone carries the weight of decades of command experience. But we'll appreciate your help in keeping her safe. The agents exchange looks, then defer to Chen's nod. As they begin discussing logistics, Alexandra slips outside. Earl follows, finding her on the porch, where he first faced down her pursuers. Are you sure about this? He asks. Witness protection could give you a fresh start, new name, new life. I'm done running, she says quietly. Done hiding who I am or where I come from. She touches the dog tags. You taught me that strength isn't about controlling everything. It's about standing your ground when it matters. Earl watches the agents setting up their equipment, establishing a perimeter around his property. It's not the retirement he'd imagined. But then life rarely follows the expected path. Your father would be proud, he tells her. Jenkins, too. Alexandra smiles, tears in her eyes but hope in her voice. Think we can save some of the corn? Already planning to, Earl assures her. Some things bend in the storm but don't break. Just need time and care to grow straight again. Together they watch the sunset, paint his fields gold, while behind them Martha starts planning tomorrow's chores, and Hank's computers keep their quiet vigil. Different kinds of strength, different kinds of family, all coming together to protect what matters. Victoria's company badge lies on the prison visiting room table between them, its polished surface reflecting the fluorescent lights above. Alexandra studies the photo of her mother. Perfectly composed, powerful, untouchable, such a contrast. To the woman who now sits across from her in standard-issue beige, 3 months into her pre-trial detention. You look well, Victoria says carefully. The farm agrees with you. Earl's teaching me about the soil, about patience. Alexandra touches the dog tags that haven't left her neck. About letting things grow in their own time. Victoria's eyes track the gesture. You trust him, this farmer who took you in. He taught me that trust isn't weakness. Alexandra meets her mother's gaze. That's why I'm here. The prosecutors offered you a deal. 15 years instead of life. Victoria's smile is bitter. In exchange for names, accounts, access codes, everything I built surrendered to save myself. She straightens, some of her old authority returning. I won't do it. Not for yourself, Alexandra agrees. For me. That stops Victoria short. What? Every person you killed, every life you destroyed, they all had families, people who deserve answers. Closure. Alexandra pulls out her mother's journal. Like Dad's family deserves to know the truth. Victoria flinches. Alexandra, I found his sister, my Aunt Catherine. She never stopped looking for answers about his accident. Alexandra opens the journal. She has kids. I have cousins. I've never met. Family I never knew existed because you buried everything that didn't fit your plan. I was protecting you, Victoria insists, but the words sound hollow even to her. No, you were protecting yourself from fear, from weakness, from the truth. Alexandra pushes the journal across the table. But protection without truth isn't safety. It's just another prison. Victoria's hands shake slightly as she touches the journal. You've been reading it. Every page, even the encrypted notes in the margins. Alexandra leans forward. You weren't always this person, Mom. Before Dad died, before whatever happened, that made you so afraid. You knew how to love without controlling, how to trust without fear. That woman was weak, Victoria whispers, but doubt creeps into her voice. She was strong enough to love, to trust, to build something real instead of just taking power. Alexandra pulls out an old photograph. Victoria and Michael on their wedding day, young and genuinely happy. Strong enough to let herself be happy. Victoria stares at the photo for a long moment. When she speaks, her voice is different, softer, less certain. Catherine, does she hate me? She wants to understand. They all do. The families of everyone touched by Project Oracle. Alexandra reaches across the table, taking her mother's hand. Help them understand. Help me understand. If I do this, Victoria squeezes her daughter's hand. If I tell them everything, then maybe something good can come from all this pain. Maybe we can't fix what happened, but we can honor the truth. Alexandra's voice is gentle but firm. It's time to stop hiding, Mom. From justice, from the past, from yourself. Victoria looks down at her company badge, at the powerful woman she'd built herself into, then at the wedding photo, at the woman she'd once been. Finally, at her daughter's face, seeing perhaps for the first time not a legacy to control, but a person to love. Okay, she whispers, then stronger. Okay, I'll do it. Alexandra signals the guard, who brings in Marshal Chen and the federal prosecutors. As Victoria begins to speak, begins to unravel the web of secrets and power she'd woven, Alexandra watches her mother's shoulders gradually straighten. Not with artificial authority now, but with the genuine strength of someone finally setting down a heavy burden. Hours later, Earl waits in the prison parking lot as Alexandra emerges. She looks drained but peaceful. She's going to testify, Alexandra tells him, climbing into his truck. Tell them everything, about Dad, about Jenkins, about all of it. Earl starts the engine. That couldn't have been easy for her. No. Alexandra watches the prison recede in the side mirror, but maybe that's the point. Maybe real strength isn't about what's easy, it's about what's right. They drive in comfortable silence for a while, the autumn countryside rolling past. Finally, Earl asks, "You okay?" Alexandra touches the dog tags, then looks at the journal in her lap. "I think I am. For the first time in a long time, I think I really am." As they turn onto the road home, Alexandra rolls down her window, letting the crisp air wash over her. Somewhere ahead, Martha is probably cooking dinner. Hank is monitoring. His security systems and the farm's fields are steadily healing from the storm's fury. Different kinds of strength, different kinds of love, all coming together to build something true. The worn deed to Earl's farm spreads across the kitchen table, its edges frayed with age. Alexandra traces the flowing script of Earl's grandfather's signature, while federal agents rush past the windows, their urgent voices carrying through the glass. "They found them," Hank reports from his laptop. 3 teams converging on Morrison Technologies' last holdouts. They're holed up in an old data center outside the city. Earl checks his shotgun, more from habit than necessity. It's been 2 weeks since Victoria agreed to cooperate, and her testimony has led to dozens of arrests. But some loyalists refuse to surrender, and they've made their final stand with Project Oracle's last remaining servers. They're desperate, Marshal Chen says, spreading blueprints across the table beside the deed. Victoria's confession exposed. Everything, the murders, the cover-ups, the planned takeover. They know there's no way back. Which makes them dangerous, Martha adds from her post by the window. Alexandra studies the blueprints. Those servers contain everything, all of Mum's evidence, Dad's real autopsy, security footage from the night. Jenkins died. Her hand finds Earl's dog tags. The truth about all of it. A burst of radio chatter makes them all turn. Chen listens to her earpiece, then swears softly. They've wired the building to explode, threatening to destroy everything, unless we guarantee their freedom. Hank's fingers fly across his keyboard. Can't get into their systems. They're running on isolated networks, no outside access. How long? Earl asks. SWAT gives them 2 hours before they have to breach. Chen's expression is grim. Building. That size, that much explosive, it'll take the servers and half the evidence with it. Alexandra stands abruptly. I need to talk to my mother. Already arranged, Chen says. She's being transported from federal custody now. They wait in tense silence. Earl watches Alexandra pace, seeing not the scared girl who first ran through his fields, but a young woman grown strong through adversity. She catches his eye, reading his thoughts as she's learned to do. You taught me that running away isn't always cowardice, she says quietly, and that standing your ground isn't always courage. Sometimes the bravest thing is knowing which is which. Martha sets fresh coffee on the table. And which is this? Before Alexandra can answer, Victoria arrives under heavy guard. She looks smaller in her prison jumpsuit, but her eyes are clearer than Earl's ever seen them. The server farm on Roosevelt, she says without preamble. Marcus is leading them, isn't he? Chen nods. Your former head of security. He's threatening to destroy everything. Of course he is. Victoria's laugh holds no humor. Because he knows what those servers really contain. Alexandra leans forward. What do you mean? Project Oracle wasn't just about control. It was about insurance. Victoria glances at the farm's deed, something like regret crossing her face. Every person involved, every operation they ran, I kept records. Insurance against betrayal. Blackmail, Earl translates. Protection, Victoria corrects, but without conviction. Marcus knows if those servers are seized intact, everyone's crimes come to light, including his own. So how do we stop him? Alexandra asks. Victoria straightens, some of her old authority returning. There's a back door, a way into the isolated networks. But she hesitates. It has to be done from inside the building. The room goes quiet. Chen shakes her head. Too risky. They're desperate men with nothing to lose. They know me, Victoria says quietly. Trust me, even now, if I could get inside. No. Alexandra's voice is firm. You've just started making things right. I won't let you. Let me? Victoria's eyebrow rises. When did you become the mother here? When I learned what real strength looks like. Alexandra touches the dog tags. From people who protect through love, not fear. Mother and daughter lock eyes across the table. Earl sees the moment Victoria truly understands, sees her daughter's strength, not as a reflection of her own power, but as something new and better. Then what do you suggest? Victoria asks softly. Alexandra picks up her mother's journal. You're not the only one they know. And thanks to Jenkins, I know every entry code, every security protocol. She meets Earl's concerned gaze. Sometimes standing your ground means walking straight into danger. Not alone, Earl says. Never alone, Martha agrees. Hank closes. His laptop. Family stands together. Victoria watches this exchange, seeing perhaps for the first time what she'd spent so long trying to build through force. Genuine loyalty, freely given. Marcus knows me, she says slowly. Knows how I think. But you, she looks at her daughter with new respect. You, he never understood at all. Alexandra nods, decision made. Then let's use that. One last time. Alexandra's handwritten account fills the pages of her diary, each word capturing the tension as they approach the data center. Mom always said knowledge was power, she writes, but she never understood that the truth has its own power, one that doesn't need force or fear to work. The massive building looms before them, its windows dark except for the server room's indicator lights blinking like cold stars. Marshal Chen's teams hold their positions while Hank works from a mobile command center, ready to exploit any digital opening they can create. Security cameras show 8 men inside, Chen reports, all armed, all ex-military or intelligence. Marcus has them stationed at key points throughout the building. Victoria, still in custody but essential to the plan, studies the layout. He's following my protocols, just like I taught him. She looks at Alexandra. Are you sure about this? Alexandra tucks the diary into her jacket next to Earl's dog tags. Jenkins was sure. Dad was sure. Sometimes you have to risk everything for what's right. Earl checks his borrowed tactical gear one last time. After convincing Chen that his military experience made him valuable, he'd insisted on being Alexandra's backup. Martha and Hank monitor communications, ready to coordinate their moves. "Remember," Victoria says, "Marcus thinks in patterns. He'll expect me to try something. But you," she touches Alexandra's arm briefly, "you're the variable he can't predict." Alexandra nods, then turns to Earl. "Ready? Together," he confirms. They approach the service entrance, Alexandra transmitting the codes Victoria provided. The door clicks open with suspicious ease. "They're letting us in," Earl murmurs. "I know." Alexandra's voice is steady. "Sometimes the best way past a trap is to walk right into it." The corridors are maze-like, filled with the hum of servers and the whisper of cooling systems. Their footsteps echo despite their care, and Earl knows they're being watched, tracked, herded toward whatever Marcus has planned. They find him in the main server room, surrounded by screens showing camera feeds from throughout the building. He's younger than Earl expected, with the focused intensity of someone who's spent too long in the shadows. "Alexandra." Marcus's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "I wondered if Victoria would send you. One last manipulation, using her own daughter as a chess piece." "Mom didn't send me," Alexandra replies. "I chose to come." "Of course you did." Marcus gestures to the servers around them. "Do you understand what these contain? The secrets, the power. Your mother spent decades building, and you're just going to hand it over?" "No." Alexandra steps forward. "I'm going to set it free." She moves fast, pulling a device from her pocket, something Hank created, designed to interface with the isolated networks. Marcus's men raise their weapons, but Earl is faster, positioning himself between them and Alexandra. "Think about what you're doing," Marcus warns. "Once this gets out, there's no going back. Everyone's secrets, everyone's sins, all exposed. Including yours." Alexandra's fingers fly across the device. "Including what really happened to Jenkins?" Marcus stiffens. "He was a threat. He was kind." Alexandra's voice catches. "He taught me chess, helped with my homework, treated me like a person, not an asset to control." "He was weak," Marcus snaps, echoing Victoria's old mantra. "Just like your father was weak. Just like everyone who chooses truth over power." Alexandra looks up from her work. "That's not weakness, Marcus. That's courage." Alarms begin to blare as Alexandra's device breaks through the firewalls. Marcus lunges for a control panel, but Earl intercepts him. They grapple briefly before Earl's training wins out, pinning the younger man as federal agents storm the room. "It's done," Alexandra announces. "Everything's being uploaded to the Justice Department's secure servers. All of it. The evidence, the videos, the truth about everyone involved." Marcus slumps in defeat as he's handcuffed. "Victoria will never forgive you for this." "You're wrong." Alexandra holds up her diary. "Mom taught me about power, but Earl taught me about strength. Real strength isn't about controlling the truth. It's about facing it." Outside, dawn breaks over the city as teams secure the building. Alexandra watches the servers power down one by one, their lights fading like stars at sunrise. Earl stands beside her, protective as always, but knowing she no longer needs protection. "Jenkins would be proud," he says quietly. Alexandra touches. "The dog tags. I think Dad would be too." She looks at her diary, at the story she's recorded of truth's victory over fear. "Think we can still save some of that corn?" Earl smiles, hearing the real question beneath her words. About home, about family, about belonging. Already planning on it. Some things grow stronger after a storm. Together, they walk out of the shadow of Project Oracle and into the rising sun, leaving behind the power of secrets for the strength of truth. The adoption papers sit unopened on Earl's kitchen table, their crisp official letterhead stark against the worn wood. Alexandra stares at them while Martha pours coffee. The morning sun painting patterns through the window where Earl first saw a frightened girl running through his corn. "You don't have to decide right now," Earl says gently. "It's your choice." Victoria's trial ended yesterday with a negotiated plea, 12 years with possibility of parole in exchange for her continued cooperation. The courtroom had been packed with families of Project Oracle's victims, each seeking their own piece of closure. "Does Mom know?" Alexandra asks, touching the paper's edge. "It was her idea." Earl sits across from her. "Said something about finally understanding the difference between owning and loving." Alexandra's hand goes to the dog tags she still wears. "And you want this?" "Only if you do." Earl's voice is firm. "You've had enough people making choices for you." Martha sets down her coffee cup with decisive clarity. "Though if you're asking, my opinion, which you haven't, but I'm giving it anyway. Family's about more than blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who helps you grow." Through the window, they can see Hank working on the farmhouse's new security system. He stayed on as a consultant, claiming the quiet helps him think. The federal protection detail left last week, satisfied that the threat had passed. "Dad would have liked you," Alexandra says suddenly. "He believed in doing what's right, no matter the cost." She looks down at the adoption papers. "That's what got him killed. That's what made him strong," Earl corrects. "Strong enough to stand up for truth, strong enough to love you more than power." Alexandra opens the envelope slowly, reading each line. Her fingers trace the space where signatures would go, hers and Earl's, witnessed by Martha, making official what they've all known for months. "There's something else," Martha says, pulling out an old photo album. "Found this in the attic. Earl's grandfather, back when he first bought this place." The faded photographs show a younger man standing proud in front of newly ploughed fields. His eyes hold the same quiet strength Alexandra has come to recognize in Earl. "He believed in growing things," Earl explains, "not just crops, but community, trust, hope." He gestures to the farm beyond the window. "This land isn't just soil and corn. It's a legacy of doing things right. A different kind of power," Alexandra understands. "One that builds up instead of controlling." She picks up a pen, then hesitates. Can we visit Mum first, before I decide? I need her to understand." "Already arranged," Martha says. "Car's ready whenever you are." The drive to the federal prison is quiet, each lost in thought. Alexandra holds the adoption papers like something precious and fragile. At the entrance, the guards recognize them from previous visits, their nods respectful. Victoria looks better than she has in months, her prison uniform neat, her eyes clear. When she sees the papers in Alexandra's hands, she smiles. A real smile, without calculation or control. "You came to ask permission," she says softly. "I came to say thank you." Alexandra sits across from her mother. "For letting me choose." Victoria's hand twitches, as if wanting to reach across the table. "I'm learning. Slowly, that love isn't ownership, that strength isn't control." She looks at Earl, "that sometimes the best thing a parent can do is step aside." "Not aside," Alexandra corrects, "just make room for more family, more love, more truth. Like your father would have wanted." Victoria's voice catches. "He'd be proud of you, Alexandra. Not for winning or losing, but for choosing what's right." Alexandra opens the papers, smoothing them on the table. "Will you witness it? Not as permission, but as acceptance." Victoria's eyes fill with tears she doesn't try to hide. "I'd be honored." The signatures take only moments. Alexandra's future claimed in a few strokes of ink, Earl's name beside hers, Martha and Victoria as witnesses. A new kind of family built on choice rather than control. As they leave, Victoria calls out one last time. "Earl, thank you for teaching her what I couldn't." "She already knew," Earl replies. "Just needed space to grow." Outside, autumn sunlight bathes the prison yard in gold. Alexandra holds the signed papers close, feeling the weight of choice, of legacy, of love freely given and received. "Ready to go home?" Earl asks. Alexandra smiles, hearing all the layers in that simple word. "Home, family, truth, growth. Yes," she says, "I'm ready." A new family photo hangs in Earl's kitchen, taken on a bright spring morning, 1 year after Alexandra first ran through his cornfields. She stands between Earl and Martha on the farmhouse porch, Hank grinning from the steps, and even Victoria. Is there, her prison photograph edited in at Alexandra's insistence, a reminder that family can take many forms. The corn's coming in strong this year, Alexandra reports, studying spreadsheets at the kitchen table. After taking online agriculture classes, she's modernized the farm's operations while respecting its traditions. That new irrigation system is paying for itself. Earl nods, remembering how the tornado's path has transformed into their most fertile field. Sometimes the worst storms leave the best soil. Martha bustles in with fresh coffee and news from town. Jenkins's scholarship fund just sponsored its first student. A girl from the city wants to study cybersecurity. She gives Alexandra a knowing look. Seems your testimony didn't just bring justice, it inspired people. The past year has seen many changes. Victoria's cooperation led to dozens of arrests, the dismantling of corrupt networks, and the return of stolen funds to victims' families. Project Oracle's technology was reformed, its surveillance capabilities now used to protect privacy rather than violate it. Mom's appeal hearing is next month, Alexandra says quietly. The lawyers think with her continued cooperation, they might reduce her sentence. Earl watches her face, seeing not conflict, but clarity. How do you feel about that? Hopeful. Alexandra touches the dog tag she still wears. Not because I think it erases what happened, but because she's finally facing it, growing from it. Hank appears in the doorway, laptop under his arm. Speaking of growth, those satellite images you wanted are in, looking at a bumper crop this fall. They gather around his screen, 4 people who became family through choice rather than chance. The farm spreads out in the aerial view, its geometric patterns telling a story of planning and care. Dad would have loved this, Alexandra muses. Using technology to help things grow instead of control them, to build instead of dominate. Martha squeezes her shoulder. He sees it through you. The afternoon sun paints the kitchen in warm light as they plan the harvest, debate crop rotations, and share the comfortable silence of people who know each other's rhythms. Alexandra's Aunt Catherine calls with updates about the cousins, their weekly conversations, another bridge being steadily rebuilt. Later, Earl finds Alexandra in the field where she first arrived, running her hands through the growing corn. The stalks are head high now, strong and straight, despite the storm that marked their beginning. Sometimes I wonder, she says without turning, what would have happened if I'd run a different way that day, past a different farm, met different people. Life's full of those moments, Earl agrees, choices that seem small but change everything. She faces him, her expression thoughtful. Jenkins used to say that destiny is just choice with better marketing, that what matters isn't where you're pushed, but where you choose to stand. Earl thinks of his own choices. Staying on the farm after Mary died, helping Martha find her. Feet opening his door to a scared girl who turned out to be so much more. Speaking of choices, Alexandra continues, I got accepted to the agricultural program at the state university. Evening classes so I can still help with the farm. Pride wells up in Earl's chest. Your mother told her yesterday. She cried. Alexandra smiles. Happy tears, I think. Said something about different kinds of growth. The dinner bell rings. Martha signaled that the day's work should yield to family time. As they walk back toward the house, Alexandra takes Earl's arm. Thank you, she says simply, for teaching me that strength isn't about never being afraid. It's about choosing to do what's right anyway. Earl looks at his farm, at the life he's built, at the family he's found. Thank you, he replies, for teaching an old farmer that growth never really stops, not if you don't want it to. They join the others in the warm kitchen, where Martha's cooking fills the air with the promise of shared meals and shared stories. The new family photo watches over them, a testament to the fact that sometimes the best legacies aren't the ones we inherit, but the ones we choose to build together. The renovated kitchen window gleams in the morning light, its new glass perfect for watching the seasons change. Earl stands at his familiar post, but now the view includes Alexandra's experimental hydroponic garden alongside his traditional crops, old wisdom, and new ideas growing together. "Got another letter from Mom," Alexandra says, sorting through the morning mail. Her anti-corruption testimony helped crack 3 more cases, the prosecutors pushing for an early release. Hearing, Earl studies his daughter's face, legally and lovingly his daughter now, seeing peace where there was once fear. "You ready for that?" "I think so." She joins him at the window. She's different now, or maybe she's finally herself again, the person she was before fear took over. Martha arrives with fresh cinnamon rolls and her usual impeccable timing. Speaking of changes, Hank's security contract is taking off. Seems lots of companies want systems that protect privacy instead of invading it. They share breakfast in the sunlit kitchen, the renovated window casting rainbow patterns across the table. Alexandra's university textbooks share space with Earl's farming almanacs, while Martha's medical journals and Hank's technical manuals complete the picture of their diverse family. Jenkins would have loved this, Alexandra muses, touching the dog tag she still wears. All of us, learning from each other, growing together. A truck appears on the drive, Catherine and the cousins arriving for their monthly visit. These gatherings have become a tradition, bridging the gap between Alexandra's past and present. "Uncle Earl!" The kids tumble out before the truck fully stops, racing toward the porch where Earl waits with his quiet smile. "Still feels strange sometimes," Catherine says, watching her children embrace the man who helped heal their family's wounds. How something so good came from something so painful. Alexandra helps unload the picnic baskets. "Dad used to say that healing isn't about forgetting the hurt. It's about choosing what to grow in its place." They settle in for their family meal, the table expanded to accommodate their growing circle. Stories flow freely, Catherine sharing memories of Michael, Martha contributing town gossip, Hank explaining his latest security innovations in terms the kids can understand. Earl watches it all from his place at the head of the table, remembering another meal long ago when a frightened girl clutched his grandmother's quilt and couldn't trust the simple kindness of tea. Later, as the day winds down, he finds Alexandra in her usual spot among the corn rows. The stalks rise tall around her, next year's seed already taking shape. "Sometimes," she says, hearing his approach, "I stand here and try to remember how scared I was that first day, running blind, not knowing if I'd find safety or worse danger. Having second thoughts?" Earl asks gently. "No." She turns to face him, sunlight catching the dog tags. "Having grateful ones. About choices and chances, and people brave enough to take both." They walk back together through the fields they both now know by heart. At the porch, Alexandra pauses. "I got a letter from the Jenkins Scholarship Committee. They want me to speak at their fundraiser, tell our story." She meets Earl's eyes. "Will you come with me?" "Always," he promises, the word holding all the weight of their shared journey. Inside, Martha supervises the cousins' cookie-baking efforts, while Catherine and Hank debate the ethics of artificial intelligence. The renovated kitchen window frames them all like a living photograph, capturing the moment when chosen family becomes simply family. "Dad would have loved this too," Alexandra says softly. "Not the power or control that Mom chased for so long. Just this, people choosing to be better together." Earl thinks of other choices. A frightened girl choosing truth over safety, a powerful woman choosing redemption over control, a simple farmer choosing to open his door to change. "That's the thing about choices," he says, watching his expanded family through the new window. "The good ones keep growing long after you make them." Alexandra smiles, touching the window frame where old wood meets new glass. "Like corn?" "Like corn," Earl agrees. "Like family." Like love, they join the others in the warm kitchen, where Martha's cookies and Catherine's stories and Hank's jokes and the children's laughter blend into the simple miracle of people choosing to grow together. Through the renovated window, the sun sets on Earl's fields, painting the world in shades of hope.